Julius Abure as national chairman of the Labour Party, labeling his continued claim to the position as illegal and unconstitutional. This position was made clear in a counter affidavit submitted by Ayuba Mohammed, an executive officer in INEC's Litigation and Prosecution Department, in response to a legal suit filed by the Labour Party. The party had challenged its exclusion from INEC's training for uploading party agents ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship elections. The conflict stems from the expiration of Abure's tenure on June 9, 2024, as confirmed by the Labour Party's Board of Trustees Secretary Salisu Mohammed. The commission asserted that it only engages with political parties that have lawful leadership in place. Meanwhile, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has said nobody can put fire in Bauchi as they have a volume of water to quench the fire. He said this when he received a delegation from the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) today. This is the first time that the governor would react to the threat of Nyesom Wike, Minister of the FCT, who accused the PDP governors of interfering with issues concerning control of the party in Rivers State. At a meeting around mid-August, the governor selected on the platform of the PDP had declared Sim Fubara as the leader of the party in Rivers State. The minister, this had annoyed Wike, who alongside his supporters organized a congress in the state to further strengthen their grip of Rivers PDP. The minister, who singled out Bauchi State Governor, promised sleepless nights to governors who leave their state to challenge him in Rivers State. In a related development, the former national auditor of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Barrister Ray Naji, has suggested that the party tolerated the FCT minister Nyesom Wike for too long. Naji stated this in an interview with journalists while offering his view on the crisis plaguing the party. This comes amid a challenge from Wike therein any governor or leader of the PDP to publicly call him a mole. The minister threw the challenge when he appeared on a monitored television program. He had previously dared state governors elected under the platform of the PDP over his threat that he will put fire in their state. Wike said he had no apology to anyone, insisting that heaven will not fall. However, lamenting on what has become of the party, the former auditor stated that no PDP will commend what's happening in the party, saying he doesn't see Wike being in APC and PDP at the same time. Naji also said that the PDP wasted time in replacing its former national chairman Iyochia Ayu, insisting that vacuum created room for the crisis. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has said it will maintain its ways and means advances to the federal government at a 5% maximum benchmark for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The Apex Bank disclosed this in a document released on its official website today. The CBN's Act stipulates that ways and means is required not to surpass 5% of the previous year's revenue of the federal government. However, the previous administration had breached the law by surpassing the legible ways and means limit over the years. Meanwhile, in the latest guidelines, the CBN noted it will continue to finance the federal government through ways and means. You will recall that in February, Olayemi Kadoso, governor of the CBN, said the financial institution would hold its ways and means advances to the federal government until all outstanding debts are refunded. His comment comes amid a renewed push by Nigeria's National Assembly to increase the ways and means limit to 10%. To this end, in February, a bill seeking to raise ways and means to the federal government from 5% to 10% passed the second reading at the Senate. And Nigeria's First Lady is facing backlash for unveiling a new national unity fabric as part of her Renewed Hope initiative. The fabric, which is set to be worn across the country for the Independence Day celebrations on October 1st, emerged from a competition aimed at empowering young Nigerians and promoting national cohesion. The design was selected by a panel of experts led by renowned fashion icon Princess Zainab Abba Folawiyo and international textile designer Banke Kuku. The First Lady has emphasized that these efforts would not only promote unity but also stimulate local industries. Well, now joining me to discuss issues on the news at 6 this evening, I have legal luminary Barrister Fred Nzako. It's always a pleasure to have you here, Barrister. Thank you for joining me. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening to our dear listeners.
Thank you. Let's begin from the Labour Party. INEC has declared that Julius Abure is no longer the Labour Party chairman as they do not recognize him. They're saying this is because INEC did not monitor or acknowledge the Labour Party National Convention held in Anambra in March, where Abure claimed to have been re-elected as chairman. We do know that there is a crisis in the Labour Party at this moment. There are factions within the Labour Party, and Abure has been trying so hard to to hold on to his position as chairman, but most of the party stakeholders, many of the party stakeholders rather, the National Working Committee and National Executive Council of the party are not having it. With INEC saying they do not recognize him, would you say Abure would now totally step down as Labour Party chairman while the party tries to re-strategize?
Well, what INEC did was expected, and it is the right step in the right direction, because a political party should not be run like a secret cult. When Julius Abure's tenure ended in July, it was expected that he would have conducted a convention, convened a convention where there will be election of officials. And what he did was a mushroom arrangement whereby he ran to Anambra. I don't know why he chose Anambra for all states. He ran to Anambra, ran down to Nnewi, and organized to himself a kangaroo election that threw him up, without following all laid down processes in both the Electoral Act and the Constitution of Labour Party. And that was why the leaders of the party said that if Julius Abure is allowed to continue in this shenanigan, he will lead the party into the bush. He will lead the party astray and cause controlled difficulty for the party. And it became very obvious that Mr. Abure had lost every modicum of honor and integrity he had, and had fallen into the wrong hands of others who want to decimate the Labour Party.
Barrister, so you agree that there are other people outside the party who are infiltrating the party and trying to destroy the party through its alleged or now former chairman Abure?
Yes, and it is the duty of the chairman to protect and defend the party. It's just like a father in the house. You just sit idly by, and others will be coming to molest the children in your house. As a father, you will fight back. But when the father becomes an internal undertaker, then there is a crisis of confidence, and it's just like somebody scoring an own goal in a football match. If it is intentional, then that means somebody was manipulating him somewhere. And many people believe that Abure has gone the way of Arabambi Papa. What is that name? Not Arabambi. That Mr. Papa who was parading himself as the chairman. And it became obvious that he was playing the script of some other people. Abure has been captured to continue to play the same script, all aimed at raising doubts and issues within the rank of Labour Party. Because the Labour Party is a party that has become the pride of the people on account of the presence of P2B in the party. So what it means is that INEC has done what it should do, and we want to encourage INEC to know that their duty is not only to conduct the election, their duty is also to have an oversight function over political parties that they register. So if any political party does not operate in a manner that will deepen and flourish the democratic tendencies and experiences of Nigeria, such a party should be whipped onto the line. And the officials who caused that problem should be sanctioned. And that's exactly what INEC has done. And I think it is a step in the right direction. Now, Labour Party can reorganize itself and then act the way and manner it is expected to as a major opposition party in Nigeria.
Barrister, there is a school of thought which believes that Abure should shelve his personal interest. He might want to go to court after this, but that he really should put his personal interest aside so that the Labour Party can thrive, especially if majority of the people do not want him anymore. But did he not have the right to seek re-election as the chairman of the party after his tenure ended in June? Was there anyone else who was contesting with him who wanted to be the chairman of the party at that time? If INEC is saying that the Labour Party failed to meet all the legal requirements for holding its national convention, which has rendered its leadership invalid, we know now that there is now an interim committee which will be seeing to the affairs of the Labour Party. In all of this, where does it leave Abure? Where does it leave the presidential candidate Peter Obi if he is now in the Labour Party and yet they are having all of these issues?
Abure has the right to contest. But the right to contest does not mean the right to manipulate the party. What he did in that charade that he called convention was the manipulation. He just gathered the people who were his people and they moved them down to Nnewi secretly. So many other major critical stakeholders of the party were not carried along. And that's not how to organize a national convention. You see, truth is constant, and no matter how you bend it, it will come back standing straight. And it's obvious that what Abure did, even he himself knew that what he did was wrong. But because he either has been compromised or has been overtaken by his personal greed and personal interest, that he never minded to throw the whole party under the bus. But some other critical stakeholders will not allow that to happen. Because Abure is not the only man in Labour Party. As a matter of fact, you talked about the presence and interest of Mr. Peter Obi. In which Peter Obi did not join Labour, did not pick Labour to run for 2023 presidential election. I tell you, the Labour Party will still be one of the parties that is very unsung. Because after Olusegun Mimiko ran on the platform of Labour Party then for his second term, no other election had been won by Labour Party, even at councillorship level, until Peter Obi now picked up Labour Party, and Labour Party started flourishing. Now, Abure couldn't manage his sudden rise to stand up, because from terrible obscurity to becoming the chairman of a party that had such a giant as Peter Obi being the presidential candidate. And he now allowed his push and interest to overshadow his mind, and he started behaving in a manner that has now thrown him out of the chairmanship seat. Of course, he knew if he wanted to run and he organized a convention the way and manner it should, and if he possibly would have even won, possibly. But suddenly he became afraid of competition, and because essentially he possibly most likely have been compromised. So, and of course, this thing called compromise is a terrible thing. It makes a man blind even when he has sight. It makes a man dumb even when he is brilliant, and it makes a man look foolish even when he is an active person. That's exactly what has happened to Abure. But of course, none of such could be tolerated because the party must keep waxing stronger. 2027 is coming. Nigerians are looking up to Labour Party. Nigerians, the other section of Nigerians, are looking up to PDP. And that is even why some people, including my humble self, have advocated that leaders of these two parties should think of a merger. Labour Party, PDP, and possibly NNPP. They can call it People's Labour Party, PLP, and then have a brand new uniform to run for 2027 because Nigerians are completely devastated.
Who keep interfering in Rivers State politics. He actually singled out the Bauchi State governor, said he will give them sleepless nights. While this is going on, there's a former chieftain of the party who believes that the PDP must act now as they have tolerated Wike for too long. Wike is saying if anyone has the temerity, they should come out and identify him as a mole in the PDP, and that is what he is not. As it is right now, many people feel that Wike is one leg in and one leg out in the PDP, one leg in the PDP and the other in the APC, but he keeps asserting that that is not the case. Would you say that the PDP has over-tolerated Wike for too long, like the ex-national auditor, Barrister Ray Naji, is saying?
When you say over-tolerated, it seems to be an understatement because recently the same PDP went and suspended Dino Melaya, whereas Wike has not been touched. And nobody is even thinking of touching him. Do you know why? Most of the members of the National Working Committee were planted by Wike. The acting chairman, Ambassador Madamagu, is a complete Wike's man. And he's doing the bidding of Wike. And that was why Wike played politics by saying he wrote the party to tell them that he wanted to serve in APC, and the party agreed. Oh, the party not even have agreed. Who did he write? He wrote his name. And it is the presence of those men that is giving him the effrontery to begin to attack the party and still remain vociferous in his attack. And until PDP shoves off Umadamagu and his colleagues who are answerable to Yesom Wike, PDP will continue to be in turmoil. Because what Wike has done is to be the spoiler from within. And of course, you know that in every human setting, the spoiler from within is more dangerous than the spoiler from without. Where are the 5 governors when they were forming G5? Today, Wike and Governor Sheyi Kinde have fallen apart. Today, the other governors who were with him are no longer heard of. Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu State, Sam Otom of Benue, and Okezi Ikpeazu of Abia. Where are these men today? They failed to secure the ticket to go back to the Senate in their various states. Only Omakinde of Oyo survived by returning as the governor, and the rest are only Makinde, and now they are quarreling. So what you can now see is that there is a terrible case of selfishness and selfish interest that has bedeviled PDP and have not allowed it to play the critical role of an opposition. Because in democracy, the opposition is as good and as required, as demanded, as necessary as the party in power. As a matter of fact, without the opposition, the party in power would not even know what they are doing. But it is opposition and the fear of opposition that keeps the party in power on their toes. And that is why any attempt to stifle voices of opposition in a democracy is resisted and rejected. And what Wike is trying to do is to act as the spoiler from within. Yes, they will continue to manage him until they ease him out. And the only way they can ease him out is to ease out his men. If they don't ease out his men, those men will continue to hold forth for him, and he will continue to rubbish the prospect of PDP and present it in a very bad light. What Bala Mohammed has said is very apt. And of course, you don't expect that the PDP, 7 PDP governors will go and side the Wike that is 90% in APC against Sim Fubara that has job to do in River State. I mean, it is natural that Sim Fubara should be the leader of the party in the state and not Yesom Wike.
All right, then. I want to quickly talk about the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has more or less defied the National Assembly by maintaining the 5% Ways and Means advance limit. Now, the CBN Act stipulates that Ways and Means must not pass 5% of the revenue, the federal government's revenue for the previous year. And the previous administration had been said to breach the law by surpassing the Ways and Means limit over the years. The CBN is saying they will continue to finance the federal government, but it will not do more than the 5% it's meant to. Meanwhile, recently the National Assembly had tried to prevail on the CBN in order to increase the Ways and Means limit to 10%. Before Buhari left in last year, he borrowed about 30 trillion naira from the Ways and Means. That the debt is still there for this administration or coming administrations to pay. Why would the National Assembly try to prevail on the CBN to increase the Ways and Means limit, knowing very well that the federal government still borrows from the World Bank, still gets money from other different lenders across the world, and this keeps increasing both our internal and external debt burdens?
It is a very high level of insensitivity and a show of irresponsibility for National Assembly not to be mindful of the fact that Nigeria is in economic turmoil. It is very bad that National Assembly would want life to continue the way it was, for them to continue to live large, for them to continue to enjoy, for those in government to continue to enjoy at the detriment of the rest of us. The fact is that the 5% in Ways and Means we are talking about is 5% of, by law, by CBN Act, is not supposed to give federal government in any particular year more than 5% of what is collected the previous year, not what is budgeted. Actually collected government revenue. If last year's actual revenue collection was, say, 15 trillion, the Ways and Means of this year must not exceed 5% of that 15 trillion. It is not what the government has budgeted or what the government expected, but what government actually collected. Because the whole idea is to have stability at the macro level of our economy. Because if you continue to mess up the ways and means portfolio and the ways and means window, it continues to funnel and fuel terrible inflation. And that is one of the reasons why we now have galloping inflation in all things. The way that means abuse under President Muhammad Buhari is what has reflected in the galloping inflation that we have experienced in the past 2-3 years. So it is sensible not to follow the same approach that put Nigeria in very deep problem. What is important is that we must learn to manage our resources. And management of resources will start by cutting off unnecessary cost of governance. That is number one. So that what you will require will be minimal. And you, of course, may not require ways and means. So for National Assembly to be thinking of pushing up ways and means to 10%, I think it's marks of irresponsibility and lack of understanding of the critical issue that is facing Nigerian economy as we speak.
All right. Talking about critical issues facing the Nigerian economy, one would think that is what the federal government would be facing right now. But the First Lady has unveiled a national unity fabric to be used for the October 1st Independence Day celebrations. And many netizens, many Nigerians on social media are not having it. They're saying this is not what we need at this time. So it's like an Ankara fabric with a very nice design when you look at it. But one would think that the First Lady will be much more concerned about the people who are living below the poverty line, the people who cannot afford food at this time, the fuel price that has gone up, and a lot of other things that Nigerians have to grapple with right now. Should we really be talking about a fabric of national unity? With the 2023 elections, it seems like the polarization between Nigerians, the gap has widened so much. Will a fabric, a piece of cloth, will it really unite us for the October 1st Independence Day celebrations and beyond? Is that what we should be talking about right now? Or are Nigerians justified to be angry about that?
Many people are even questioning what is all this celebration when we have not solved some of the basic problems we have as a country. On October 1st, Nigeria will be 62 years. The same country is still talking about ethnicity, tribalism, nepotism, and sectionalism. The same country is still grappling with multiplicity of problems, including 14 to 18 million children out of school. The same country is not united to the extent that even on our statutory forms, when you are filling a statutory form, they will ask you your tribe. Why should Nigeria still be asked to indicate the tribe they come from on statutory forms instead of state or place of residence? Every country that wants to be fused, that wants to be united towards progress, no longer talks about tribe or ethnicity, because it is a primitive primordial sentiment that does not lead to development. Everything that should bring productivity and increase our productive capacity is what is welcome. And anything that will amount to wasteful spending should be condemned. And the First Lady should know that this is not the time for us to waste Nigerians' money. Look, sometimes people in government don't seem to understand that the same way you run your home is the same way you should run government. If you come to your house and you have 100,000 naira and you mess up the money, you will go without money. The same thing with government. If the government has 100 trillion and they mess it up, the government will go cap in hand. Until we understand that the concept of government is not an imaginary concept. If you know the way you run your personal business, the way you run your personal life with frugality and with caution, that's exactly the way you should run government. And that is why Peter Obi ran Anambra State and was the only governor that left huge amount of money behind, because he ran the government of Anambra State the way he ran his business and the way he ran his private life. Lack of wasteful spending, lack of unnecessary and bogus expenditure. But for every expenditure dropped somewhere around, but not in Aso Rock, because the occupants of Aso Rock are not acting in a manner that shows that they have had a crime. They are still living large. They are still behaving as if money is not the problem. They are still not listening to the cries of the people. Minimum wage has been approved. It has not been paid. Consequential adjustment has not been arranged. The people who are suffering in the informal sector, nobody is looking after them. Nobody is taking care of them. And when the people say in power, they are taken to court. The government must know that they are not elected, according to Bishop Kuka. Those in authority were not elected to go and enjoy on behalf of the rest of us. They are elected to serve, so that when there is enjoyment, it will reach everybody in the country.
Barrister Nzako, I must thank you for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. It's been a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
You're still listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM, and we just spoke to legal luminary Barrister Fred Nzako. While that's it on the World News at 6, just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that Hezbollah exploding pages killed 3 and injure many in Lebanon. INEC declares Julius Abure no longer Labour Party chairman. Nobody can put fire in my state. Bauchi governor replies Wike. CBN defies National Assembly, maintains a 5% ways and means advance limit. And the First Lady unveils National Unity fabric for Oktoberfest celebration. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Chioma Innocent. Good evening and thank you for listening.